Hello, Ted Morrissey here, making a video for my course at Southern New Hampshire University. We're all about making websites and blogs and establishing social media accounts as writers and poets and screenwriters and so forth. And welcome to the Inner Sanctum. This is my office space here. I've always got like a zillion projects going on simultaneously, so it's kind of a mess. Plus, I'm a publisher and I got all kinds of books around. You can't see them, it's just as well. But I want to talk a little bit about this project of creating a web page or a blog and then a social media account that has some of us kind of stressed out. I think part of the problem, as I've mentioned before, is that maybe we're looking at websites by really established writers and they look very elaborate and so forth. You can't really see it. My plan was to have my website on the screen, which I do, but it just looks like an ethereal glowing box, which is maybe an improvement. But if you look at my website, tedmorrissey.com, it is pretty elaborate. I've got along the top, along the menu, I've got different links for each of my books that I've published, plus a link for the short stories and other things that I've published where you can go to that. And then those have links if they're online publications and so on and so forth. I've got, links for readings and for interviews and so forth and so on. But when I started my website many, many years ago, 2010, I think, is when I started it, when I published my first novel. It was very, very basic, very simple. And over time, little by little by little, I've just kind of added to it, added pages to it. The home page, the front page, is a brief sort of note about who I am as a writer primarily. It's the sort of thing when I send material to a journal that they could use for the contributor's note. So it's very brief. I do have a link in the menu for an autobiographical page where I go into more detail about myself as if anyone were interested. And so you could think about doing that too. You do have to have a biographical sketch as part of your website. Some of us are writing pretty lengthy ones. I kind of encourage you to maybe keep it shorter and sweeter, just because nowadays, especially, most people don't want to read a whole lot of text. And so what you might want to consider doing is having sort of a brief version and then an extended version. And they can be part of the same page if you wanted them to be. I have them in slightly different places on my website, but, whatever, right? And the other thing that I would encourage you to think about when it comes to really your entire website, your entire page, but also when it comes to the biographical note, is to write in first person. Most of us, many of us, all of us perhaps, have turned in biographical notes which are in third person. And maybe you were encouraged to do that in another class, perhaps. I'm not really sure how all that works. But I would encourage you just to go ahead and write it in first person on your website. Now, my contributor's note thing is kind of in third person. Not kind of, it is in third person. But then later it's in first person. But everything else on my website is in first person. And I just think that it makes your website more personable to be talking about yourself. I mean, it implies that you are the one actually, working on your website. You're the one in charge of it. And I think that's a good touch. I think that most people visiting your website would find that very, appropriate and would make you, again, more personable as a writer and just a fellow human being that they might be interested to learn more about. So, again, I would encourage you maybe to write in first person. The other thing I do on my homepage, which, you don't have to do, but I have been doing it for a long time, is in addition to my just very brief kind of sketch about myself as a writer that, again, is kind of in line with a contributor's note that would appear in the back of a journal or something if they published a piece of mine. I have kind of running list of news events, and with the most current being at the top, and then in descending order in terms of chronology. Just things related to my writing life, whether I might have published a piece here, I might have given a conference presentation there, a review of this book may have appeared there. And I always try to have links in those, if possible, to link to the review or to the journal or whatever it might be, where the piece has been published. Then every so often I have to kind of remind myself to go back, because that gets pretty long in a hurry, and so I'll go out and just delete items that really aren't that significant, especially when you look back at them over the next several months or a year later or whatever it might be. So maybe have a running list of news items that might be useful. Things that you're kind of up to as a writer there as well. So you need to have a biographical sketch of some sort. I'd encourage you to keep that brief, and again, maybe have a brief version and a longer version somehow or another to your site if you wanted to. You do need to have a works in progress page. And as I've said elsewhere, that's a little weird. Most workaday writers, don't really have that on their site. They don't talk about what they're working on, really. It's just a list of publications and so forth. And so if you do have some publications, and I know some of you are more experienced, so maybe you have some publications, instead of a works in progress page, I would encourage you just to list your publications. And if it's only one or two or three, no big deal, that's fine. And again, if you can link to those somehow because they're published online, or at least link to the journals or the publisher somehow, I think that's a good thing. If you don't have any publications, which again is fine, then to fulfill the requirement, yes, have at least one thing, maybe two or three or four things that you are working on, short stories or novels or whatever it might be, collections. And again, though, as you do get some experience and start to get some publication credits, if you haven't already, I would encourage you eventually to come back to that and switch out your works in progress page for a publications page. I think that's more typical. I think people who are looking up information about you online, they're more interested in what you've already published as opposed to what you may be working on and may publish in the future, that kind of thing. All right. The other element that you are required to have, there's only three: the biographical statement of some sort, the works in progress or list of readings. And then the third is a link to a social media site: Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter. I always think of Prince when we say that, the artist formerly known as Prince. I don't know if you remember those days at all. If you're of a certain age, you probably do, or if you're from Minneapolis. So, you need to have a link to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Some people have Pinterest. Not sure about that, but they do, and that's fine. Some people link to Goodreads. But only one. You only have to have one. If you have two or three or four, YouTube is another one that's very common. That's fine to have more than one. But a lot of you are using templates that have built-in links. So they have a little Facebook icon, a little Instagram icon, still a little Twitter icon. Nobody's updated to X logo yet. And that's great if they've got those in there and you've got an Instagram account or a Facebook account or whatever it might be, then it makes it easier for you to link to that. But what happens a lot of times is those templates that we're using have those prefab link buttons, and you don't have those sites. So when you click on them, they just go generically to Facebook or to Instagram or whatever it is. And obviously that's not any use to anybody. So if you don't have a Facebook page and don't plan to have a Facebook page, figure out how to delete that Facebook link logo, right? So only have links to the actual social media sites that you have, right? Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is. I've noticed that in some cases when those aren't available, we are putting in our social media links hither and yon, here and there. In some cases, I really have to search for them. I know they're there because it's part of the assignment, or at least I assume they're there because it's part of the assignment. So I'm looking all over the place trying to find them, and usually I do. But I would encourage you to make those as easy to find as possible if you yourself are putting them on your page, right? So usually I expect to find them on the home page. They can appear elsewhere too, but the home page is where I tend to look for them. It's just someone visiting websites, and if I want to find someone's Twitter account or Instagram or something, I assume maybe it's on the home page, and I hope to find it there. And if it isn't, maybe it's under contact. Who knows? But I like it on that front page. Now, here's something else to watch out for. I notice this a lot. So that social media link might appear automatically on every page. So maybe you fix it on the home page. You have it set up so it goes to your specific Instagram account or your specific, Facebook page or whatever. But then when it appears on another page, on your works in progress page or something else like that, it appears again, but now it's not linked to your page. So just be on the lookout for that. So if it shows up on another page, make sure either you edit that so that it does go specifically to your Facebook page, or whatever, or get rid of it, delete it somehow from that page, right? You don't want multiple social media links, some that work and some that don't. That'd be very confusing to visitors and not very professional looking and that kind of thing, right? This is really a fine detail, really, more of an idiosyncratic kind of thing. But if you do give someone a link to your social media or to maybe a book you do have on Amazon, for example, or something like that, use the hyperlink feature. So if you say that you're on Instagram, highlight Instagram and then copy and paste your Instagram URL into that and save that, so that when someone visits your site, they just see Instagram as a hyperlink, right? They click on it and they go to you. As opposed to saying something like, I'm on Instagram, or he or she or there on Instagram, and then copying and pasting the entire URL, right? Or it's even worse if you do have a book on Amazon and you type in your Amazon link. Hold on one second. Thought I had to sneeze. You wouldn't want to see that. So so they just copy paste the whole Amazon link, for example, in there that with 80 characters or something, and that's very kind of ugly, quite frankly. So again, just say that they've published such and such book, then highlight the title, and then go in and paste that link into the hypertext window and save. So again, so when someone goes to your site, they see that the title of your book is a hyperlink, and they click on it, and voila, there it is, right? It's there on Amazon for them to purchase, hopefully, right? So that's just kind of a finer point, but it is something to kind of think about. And the last thing I'm going to end with here is the most important point, and that is, if you're having trouble, as some of us tend to have, which is understandable, we don't come into this world with an automatic understanding of how to create web pages and blog pages and all that stuff. If you're having trouble, reach out and say, let's have a Zoom meeting. And we will set up a Zoom meeting. And lo and behold, I'll bet you in just a matter of a couple of minutes, sharing screens and talking in real time to each other, we will figure out what the problem is. We'll figure out why your pages aren't appearing, or we'll figure out how to add pages to your website, or whatever it might be, right? I'm not an expert, but I've been doing this stuff for a long time. And I just know from experience that when we have those Zoom conferences, and we can share screens, and I can see what you're doing, and I can show you what you might want to be doing instead by sharing screens, that tends to have any kind of confusion just evaporate kind of instantaneously. And then people are like, duh, why wasn't I doing that before? Well, because you didn't know to do it before. So reach out, Let's have a Zoom conference. Let's share screens, see what you're up to. I can show you what I think you need to be doing differently, and that will solve the problem. Don't stress out day upon day upon day. Don't lose sleep. Don't think, how am I ever going to pass this class? Just send me an email and say, can we have a Zoom conference? And I'm going to say, when are you available? And we're going to set it up, and life is going to be better. I guarantee it. All right. So I'm going to stop there, and hopefully I will see you down the digital trail.